I mean, literally national publicity, just banging out not guilties after not guilties. And I'm watching these lawyers, I'm like, I'm just trying to work on my art and get people and fight these cases. And I think the way you build it is you get that big case, but you show the world who you are.
Lil Durk's lawyer just dropped new paperwork that got the feds scrambling like roaches when the lights cut on. And this is not a drill? No cap. This move had the internet double-checking the headlines because it put the state on defense fast. Drew Finlan, the big money lawyer on the team, just filed a motion that basically told the government, either show us exactly what you've got or sit down and be quiet. When I say this, flipped the energy of the case. It really shifted things in Durk's favor. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything or play fake legal expert like that commentator who talks like. Durk already earned a life sentence. I'm here to walk you through what's actually being argued. Before we break this down, hit that like button if you're ready for a real breakdown. And subscribe because your boy is about to explain why Lil Durk might have a better shot at coming home sooner than people expected. This is about what's in the court filings, not just rumors. To understand how we got here, we gotta spin back to when this whole situation first started showing cracks. The feds have been trying to push a story that Durk was behind some kind of murder for hire setup aimed at Quando Rondo, saying he put a bounty on him and gave his crew directions. But here's where it gets interesting. When you look closer at the paperwork, a lot of that is written in a vague way that doesn't spell anything out clearly at all. They've been talking like, yeah, Durk did it, but whenever his lawyer, Drew Finlan, asked simple questions like, when was this supposed to happen? Where did this conversation take place? How much was this alleged bounty? What did he supposedly say? Word for it? Everything goes quiet? Not. No clear dates? No clear numbers? No direct quote tying Durk to an order-just dramatic storytelling about the shooting and following, but nothing locked in on him actually giving a command. That's what this new motion is, attacking those cloudy accusations with no solid details behind them. Drew filed what's called a motion to dismiss for vagueness. And even if that sounds like a dry courtroom phrase, in a case like this, it can be dangerous for the prosecution's side. If the judge decides the way they wrote this up is too unclear, that part of the case could get chopped down heavy. And that kind of move can really shift the whole legal chessboard in Durk's favor, no cap. Drew is basically telling the court, Your Honor, these charges are so vague and confusing that my client can't even defend himself, and he's not lying. Think about it, imagine somebody accused you of robbing a store, but they can't tell you which store, what day it happened, what time it went down, or even how much money was taken. How are you supposed to prove where you were if they can even explain where there is? That's the exact problem sitting in Lil Durk's case right now. The feds keep yelling about some alleged bounty, but they can't tell the court when Durk supposedly offered it, where the conversation allegedly happened, what exact words he used, how much money was involved, or who was even in the room when it went down. And here's the wild part, they've been dragging this unclear story for almost 2 years straight, like they hoping details magically appear. But that's only the start, because the real explosion came when Drew Finlan exposed how the government's star witness, labeled PW1 in the documents, kept switching his story like he was trying to dodge trouble. The inconsistencies are crazy. First, this witness claimed there was no bounty at all. Then he switched up and said he didn't agree to hurt anybody for money. Then he switched again and said he acted under pressure. And now all of a sudden, he's claiming Durk's people stayed behind in LA to collect and distribute bounty money? That jump doesn't even make sense. But here's the kicker. The government's own evidence proves he isn't being truthful. It got so messy that prosecutors had to remove that entire collecting bounty money claim from their second indictment after they realized their own witness couldn't keep his story straight. Drew put it perfectly. When the government's witnesses keep changing their stories about crucial facts, Mr. Banks' defense is forced to aim at a moving target, and that is fundamentally unfair. That line hit the courtroom like a punch. Then people started connecting dots. And this part is straight detective-level breakdown. The prosecution keeps trying to use Durk's lyrics as evidence, as if his music is some secret confession. But Drew just destroyed that whole angle. He told the court straight up that if the government can prove their case without relying on rap lyrics, that means their case is weaker than they want to admit. And he's right, they've got 20 terabytes of phone data, multiple cooperating witnesses, and cross-country surveillance. But they still circling back to song lyrics? It looks shaky. But here's the example that really exposes the problem. Drew pointed out how unfair the coded language accusations are. He said, imagine they keep Durk clueless about what code words they think he used. Then at trial, a witness suddenly says, oh, when Durk said the eagle has landed, that means he offered a bounty for murder. That kind of surprise interpretation is exactly what Drew is calling out. It lets the government twist any random phrase into something serious without warning. How is Durk's team supposed to defend themselves if the government waits until trial to suddenly claim, oh, this is what he meant by that phrase? I can't research it, can't find witnesses, can't build a response, nothing at all. It's trial by ambush. And that move isn't legal in any courtroom. No wonder the street's been buzzing about this motion for a whole week. It flipped the case in a major way. Legal analysts are even saying this is one of the strongest challenges they've seen in a federal case like this. Drew Finland didn't just push back, he exposed the entire strategy the prosecution been running with. The government keeps trying to drown the jury in dramatic details about the shooting, following the locations, all the intense imagery that sounds like a movie scene. But none of that proves Durk actually ordered anything. It's like showing a jury full security footage of a bank getting robbed, then pointing at someone across the room and saying he planned it, without a single detail linking him to the planning. The robbery footage might shock people, but if you can't prove who made the call, you don't have a case, period. And here's the part that had folks shaking their heads. The government argued that the specific words Durk allegedly used don't matter, claiming it isn't a required part of the offense. Drew clapped back hard, saying a bounty offer is as essential to a murder for hire charge as a lie is to a wire fraud charge. If there's no clear offer, then how can you claim murder for hire? Now let me keep it real about what this motion really means for Durk's situation. This filing is forcing the government to show their full hand. No more vague claims, no more mystery details, no more story switches. They have to put real specifics on the table. Drew basically told them, show us when, where, how, and in front of who, or step aside. If the prosecution can't answer those basic questions, this case might collapse in real time. And from what's in these documents, they've been struggling to answer those questions for 2 years straight. Their star witness keeps shifting his story like he's trying to figure out which version the government likes best, and juries hate that. When a witness facing serious time keeps changing details, every juror starts wondering what he's really trying to protect. Another thing working in Durk's favor, the government already had to delete entire pieces of their indictment because their own evidence didn't support it. That shows they've been stretching the story from the jump, hoping the courtroom wouldn't notice. But here's why this motion hits so hard legally. First, it attacks the foundation of the government's entire case. If they can't prove a bounty existed, they can't claim murder for hire. And if murder for hire falls, most of the other charges crumble with it. Second, it exposes how shaky their witnesses are. When your main witness delivers 4 different versions of the same event, that's a credibility nightmare for the prosecution. Third, this motion is showing the government has been playing fast and loose with the facts the whole time, been shifting their theory of the case as they go, and that's not how justice is supposed to work. The grand jury indicted Durk based on one version of events, but now the government is trying to prosecute him on a different version. And Drew Finland straight up called them out for it in writing. From the street perspective, all of this makes perfect sense. In most federal cases, the playbook is simple. They flip somebody close to you, that person tells everything they think the feds want to hear, and the government builds a case off their words. But what happens when that same person keeps changing their story? What happens when the paperwork and phone data don't match what they're saying? What happens when they can't even lock in basic details about what supposedly happened? That's exactly the mess we're seeing right here. The feds walked in thinking they had a slam dunk case, but once you really start digging into the evidence, it's full of holes. And here's a key detail. People forget Durk wasn't even in Georgia when King Von lost his life, and he wasn't in LA when that shooting went down either. So the only way they can tie him in is through these alleged directions they say he gave to other people, and if they can't prove what he said, when he said it, or how he said it, they can't honestly connect him to any crime. What Drew Finland did with this motion is next-level legal offense, not just defense. He is not sitting back reacting. He is pressing the government by demanding specific details about the supposed bounty and these alleged directions. That forces prosecutors to either bring out real evidence they might not have, or quietly expose that they've been leaning on speculation and shaky testimony this whole time. And here's the coldest part of the whole strategy. Even if the judge doesn't dismiss the case completely, the court might still order the government to file a bill of particulars, basically a detailed breakdown of exactly what they claim Durk did step by step. If the government can't provide those details, or if what they finally put on paper, dose and T, match what they told the grand jury before, Durk's team can use that at trial to tear their whole narrative apart in front of the jury. But let's zoom out for a second and look at what all this means for hip-hop as a whole. Because this isn't just about Durk's case anymore. This hits the entire culture. For years, the feds have been trying to use rap lyrics as evidence, from Bobby Shmurda to YNW Melly and now Lil Durk. They keep treating artistic expression like confession tapes, and that's dangerous for every artist in the game. What Drew Finland did in this motion might change that pattern forever. He basically told the court straight up, if you need rap lyrics to prove your case, then you don't have a case. That argument might end up being the thing that protects future rappers from having their creativity twisted into criminal accusations. If this sticks, it could set a legal standard that shifts the culture in a major way. Here's another key detail working in Durk's favor. The timeline doesn't match reality at all. The government is trying to use a song. Durk dropped 7 months before the shooting as evidence of him offering a bounty, but how can something recorded half a year earlier prove intent for a specific event that didn't happen yet? That's like saying, because someone wrote a song about robbing banks in January, they must have robbed the bank that got hit in August. That logic doesn't line up with anything real. Now let's talk about this witness situation, because this is where the government's case starts collapsing hard. Their main witness first said there was no bounty, then switched it up and said he was forced to be involved, then switched again and claimed someone else collected the money. But the government's own files prove that the collected the money part is false. So now they are relying on a witness with zero credibility to speak on the most important piece of the entire case. Good luck selling that to a jury. And here's what's really wild: look at what the government doesn't have. They don't have phone recordings of Durk ordering anything, no text messages discussing a bounty, no money transfers or financial records showing a payout, no witnesses saying they heard exact instructions, and no physical evidence connecting Durk to planning anything at all. All they have is circumstantial smoke and a witness who can keep one story for longer than a week. That is not enough to lock someone in a federal murder for hire conviction, and every legal expert knows it. Drew Finland's strategy is next level because he isn't just defending, he is attacking the prosecution as credibility head-on by exposing every inconsistency, every shaky detail, and every weak point in their story. He's making it harder and harder for the government to convince a jury of anything. Even if something comes out that looks bad for Durk, the jury will already be side-eyeing the case because of the problems Drew pulled into the light. The jury is absolutely going to remember the fact that the government couldn't even provide basic details about the main allegations, and that alone creates real reasonable doubt. And here's the real tea. Fam, this motion might have just changed Lil Durk's entire future. The government has been leaning on assumptions, uncertain storytelling, and a witness who can't keep one version straight, and Drew Finland just dragged all of that into the light. The prosecution thought they could overwhelm a jury with dramatic scenes, intense descriptions, and heavy accusations, hoping nobody would catch the gaps in the actual evidence. But Drew peeled those gaps wide open and forced them into a corner. He made them either stand on solid facts or admit they don't have enough to carry the weight of their own claims in. From what we were seeing, they might not have enough at all. Let me be real, I'm not saying Durk automatically beats the case. The feds still have resources, and they could come back with something stronger if they dig deeper. But what is clear is that Durk's chances look way better today than they did a few months ago. This motion shows exactly what happens when you have the right lawyer, someone who understands the system and knows how to expose every weak point without backing down. Drew Finland just reminded everyone of something major. The burden of proof sits on the prosecution, not the defense. And if the government can't prove when, where, and how Durk supposedly offered this bounty, then their entire case is standing on sand. One wrong step, and the whole thing collapses. The street's been yelling "Free Durk" ever since he got locked up, but after reading this motion, that chant feels more realistic than ever. A lot of people are starting to believe this case might break apart faster than anyone expected once it hits the courtroom. So what do you think? Does Durk really have a shot at walking free? Did this motion flip the whole situation, or is there still danger on the horizon? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's talk about it, because this one has the whole culture watching right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because more updates are coming, and your boy is breaking down every move as soon as it hits the timeline. Until next time, keep it solid, stay sharp, and remember, real, recognize real.